Kevin Nagani back with you to the NFL, where Bengals defensive end Trey Hendrickson showed up at the team's facility today, but not really happy. 1 year left on his contract, wants a new deal after leading the league in sacks with 17.5. Yesterday, he said the team wasn't honoring promises. Today, he said more. Listen to this.
A little bit transpired between me and Zach. We've tried to keep it as least amount personal as possible. But at some point in this process, it becomes personal. You know, being sent 30 days before mandatory camp, or however many days it is, that if I don't show up, I will be fined, alludes to the fact that something won't get done in that time frame.
Hendrickson talking a little bit about the exchange of texts from his head coach, Zach Taylor, recently. Bengals reporter Ben Baby joining us now from Cincinnati. Ben, what more can you tell us about this situation between Hendrickson and the Bengals?
Yeah, we saw Trey at practice today, and he definitely wanted to clear the air on a couple things. One major point, he is not planning on playing unless he gets that contract extension that he's been looking for. And I asked him, why exactly was he at practice to kind of clear the air? And he pointed to that text message from Zach Taylor as kind of a tipping point throughout all of this. He said that also preempted the exchange in the statement to Adam Schefter about the lack of communication this offseason and his press conference today. And that level of disappointment, well, he said that was the word of the offseason and definitely a theme that he repeated often throughout his comments today. And the situation has been simmering over the course of the offseason, and it kind of reached a boiling point. And he said that lack of communication creates a sense of animosity. And I asked him point blank, I said, is this situation, is this relationship irreparable? And he said that, he thinks that anything can be repaired, anything can be salvaged. Obviously, he's taken a lot of note of the comments back and forth between the front office. He's seeking a long-term deal. The front office believes that a short-term deal with maybe less guarantees than he's looking for is currently on the table. He talked about shark attacks, and there are unprovoked shark attacks, and there are other kind of shark attacks. I'm not sure where this really lands on the scale, but Hendrickson definitely not treading water as he tries to get that new deal before the start of the season.
You don't want to sink this season, especially with all the money they've spent on the offensive side. Last season, Hendrickson and the Cincinnati defense gave up over 25 points a game, and then they brought in Al Golden, the new defensive coordinator, to try to fix.
Because they've got a little situation brewing. Because they paid the offense. They paid Chase and Higgins a combined $276 million in extensions. Chase now the highest paid wide receiver by over $5 million a year. Higgins just off this board at around $29 million a year. And we thought, if they did that, then what's going to happen with Trey Hendrickson? Well, he's not happy with the way contract negotiations are going. He told reporters today that he is not going to play under his current deal, which pays him a little over $16 million a year. He said that the negotiations have stalled and things have gotten a little personal. Just think of that. He's making $16 million a year. That's not even close to the top 10 for a guy that led the NFL in sacks last season with 17.5. He was a first-team All-Pro. Our John Breach has been a lifelong fan of the Cincinnati Bengals. His dad used to kick for them, so they are very near and dear to your heart, John. We had a Cincinnati reporter on earlier in the show who said he thinks this is going to end in a trade. How do you see things going, and how do you feel as a Bengals guy right now?
Well, first of all, I can't believe this is happening. This is keeping up with the Kardashians' level of drama. When you have your star defensive player show up to a voluntary practice in street clothes just so he can hold a press conference to complain about the team. I mean, that's a new level of drama even for Cincinnati, and this is a team that has produced plenty of drama, whether it was Jamar Chase and T. Higgins deals, but they did get those deals done. And I do think that they're obviously, these two sides are at an impasse. The Bengals don't want to pay Trey Hendrickson what he's worth. Hendrickson, we saw those contracts that at the top of the pass rushing market. There are 4 guys who are making more than twice the money that Trey Hendrickson's going to make in 2025. So if you're the Bengals, you know you have to get him up there. And it doesn't sound like Hendrickson wants to take a short-term deal. He feels like that would be kicking the can down the road and put him in the same situation he is now. So that's another part of this that's slowing things down. He doesn't want to sign a 1 or 2 year deal. He's over 30, so I understand why the Bengals want to do that. So a trade is certainly possible, but you are the Bengals. You did not have a good defense. You cannot trade away your best defensive player. I do think they eventually get something done here, but man, it might be a month or two before that happens.
If they don't get things done, if they do need to trade him, if he does need to leave Cincinnati, what would be his #1 landing spot?
#1 spot, I think, would be the Washington Commanders. If I am Dan Quinn and the Commanders, I am calling up the Bengals and giving them whatever they want. You have a star quarterback in Jayden Daniels, who is under his rookie contract for 2 more seasons. So you have money to play with. You want to go all in on winning a Super Bowl. Quinn is a defensive-minded coach. So bringing in Hendrickson would give them really a star pass rusher that they don't really have right now. And if you look at the Commanders' schedule in 2025, they face Patrick Mahomes. They face Jalen Hurts twice. They face a lot of good quarterbacks. So that pass rush would certainly help. And they do have the cap space to do it. They probably have to finagle a little bit, but with almost $23 million in cap space, it's something they could do. So I think the Commanders will be the top spot, Chris.
They were 1 win away from the Super Bowl last season. A team that was 1 win away from the Super Bowl the season prior is your second best landing spot. Why are you going with the Lions?
Well, you look at the Lions' schedule. You look at the quarterbacks they face. Let me read this list real quick. Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Jordan Love, Jalen Hurts, Matthew Stafford, Dak Prescott. I mean, the Lions have a brutal quarterback schedule, so you need someone who can get off after the quarterback. We know they have Aiden Hutchinson, but we saw how bad that pass rush was last season after Hutchinson got injured. He only played in 5 games in 2024. He still led the team in sacks, even though we have played those 5 games with 7.5 sacks. So if you're the Lions, you bring in Hendrickson. He gives you a little bit of security in case Hutchinson isn't 100% to start the season. And if he is 100% to start the season, well, now you have 2 of the top pass rushers in the NFL, and you can get after any quarterback. So if I'm the Lions, I'm certainly calling in the Lions. Like the Commanders, have a lot of cap space. The Lions have over $40 million, so they could afford Hendrickson.
And with your third best landing spot, you're going to stay in that same division with the Chicago Bears, John.
Let's do the Bears. Well, let me just explain real quick. I do not think the Bengals will be crazy enough to trade him to an AFC team. So I do think if there is a deal, it would be an NFC team. And that is why I've listed 3 NFC teams here. You look at what the Bears have done. Ben Johnson, they've come in and really revamped the offensive side of the ball. We saw what they've done on the offensive line. They signed some key free agents, made a trade for a key free agent. So they've really ramped things up. Now they just need a little bit of a stronger defense. And I think the Bears know that they need to add some pass rush because they went out, added some help in free agency, but I do not think they're where they want to be. And one key here is that the Bears' new defensive coordinator this year is Dennis Allen. Chris, that is the same defensive coordinator that was in New Orleans when Trey Hendrickson got drafted in 2017. So Hendrickson spent 4 seasons with Dennis Allen. He's very familiar with his defense, so there wouldn't be very much of a learning curve, and that would reunite those 2, and I think he could do some damage with the Bears.
All right, so 3 potential landing spots.
Tiếp tục móc. Cứ luân phiên cho mình.